Somebody asked me, he said, why do you need to come to Washington? You know, you're small, medium-sized businesses, some of you larger than others, all over America. I'll tell you why you need to come. You need to come up here and see what's going on, because somebody's going to influence the tax policy. You hope you'd be part of that. Somebody's going to influence the regulatory policy, which affects everything you do. Go down the road. So that's why you're here, and you should be here. Most of you are small business people. A little story that happened to me, this was a long time ago. I was a young man, and I was elected to my first term in the state senate in Alabama. I think I was 35 years old. That was a couple of years ago. And so I was appointed to the finance committee, which served as the appropriations committee and the taxing committee in the state legislature. And there were 35 of us in the state senate in Alabama. And this crusty, I thought he was crusty, but he's wise and smart, chairman of the committee that I had just been appointed to, the newest, youngest guy on the committee, I went to meet him. He asked me, he said, is this the first time you've been in an elected body, a legislative body, city council, school board, anything where decisions you make affect people's businesses and lives and everything? I said, it is, sir. He said, well, what do you do for a living? I said, I was a lawyer. He said, wow, you know, and he said, well, he said, before, he called me son, which I like now. They don't call me that anymore, you know. So he said, son, before you vote on anything in my committee, finance committee, said, go read this plaque on the wall and commit it to memory and think about it every time you're sitting here. And I did, and I never forgot what it said. The plaque on the wall, and it came out of a decision of the Court of Appeals for the state of New York 100 years ago, I guess. And the state Supreme Court, a Court of Appeals, was ruling on the Assembly of New York, the legislature. And basically it said, no man's life, liberty, or property was safe while the legislature was in session. And I thought about that, and that's true to a point, but it's also true of the Congress, because we are the national legislature for all of it. And I've thought about that many times, because when we do vote on things, it affects you one way or the other, good or bad. When people push regulations that you say, God, who did this? How could they think it up? I mean, you've asked that, I'm sure, many times. How could they do that? Why would they do that? It makes no sense, you know. And all this affects you. I've chaired the banking committee 3 times. I can't chair it again, but I'm a senior member. So many things affect you and what you do coming out of finance and banking. I fought the Dodd-Frank bill. We fought it hard when Obama. I have fought the creation of the consumer agency, which has no bounds, and you don't know what they're going to do next. We're trying right now, they came forth, all of you familiar with this, trying to knock out arbitration, you know, the arbitration agreement. Wow. Well, I can imagine what that's going to do. You know, I'm a lawyer, but, you know, I don't like frivolous lawsuits. You don't either. You know, you've had your share of them and all this kind of stuff. So arbitration, I think, works for the most part, you know, and we want to keep it that way. We're trying now to try to get enough votes in the Republican caucus. You know, we're the majority, but we've got some outliers with us, you know, to do something with the rule, you know, change that rule, make sure they can't vitiate what they're trying to do, which will affect everybody here in this room in probably a negative way. We're also coming up tax proposals, which will affect everybody in this room, everybody in the country. I'd like tax reform, meaningful tax reform. I've paid my share of taxes. Somebody said he happily did it. I never happily did it, but I did it, you know, and you did too. But we want to make sure, and I've raised this in the Republican caucus, and I've talked to the president about it. He agreed on this. I said the Republican base, the stalwarts of our base, is small and independent businesses in this country. I said we can't just lower, although I want us to lower the big companies' tax rate from a stated 35% downward because it's one of the highest taxes in the world. Nobody pays that, but still it's up there. But I want to do something for the small business. A lot of them are pass-through, subchapter S companies. And that's what we're working on now, is the mechanics of this, because that will affect a lot of you and affect probably 80% of the small and medium-sized businesses that create most of the jobs in this country. But there are a lot of things we could get in. We don't have all the details of tax, but that's a big ticket item. Healthcare. You probably say, why can't we have 52 Republicans, why hadn't we been able to repeal that and replace Obamacare? Well, actually, we have about 47, sometimes 48 Republicans that try to create critical mass, to stay together in a cohesive way. And we've got 3 or 4 that leave the reservation. Y'all understand? But do we like that? No, because we're one short, one night. And we haven't given up yet, because all that's, it's just more and more costs and so forth. But these are some of the challenges that we face. But we also face challenges globally. Look at North Korea. Wow, an irrational guy with nuclear weapons and rockets too. How do you deal with that? Do you try to do it diplomatically? Yes, we hope so. But we live in a dangerous world. Then we got Iran, as you know. Obama, they cut a deal with Iran. I thought it was a bad deal. Well, anybody knows that Iran, if North Korea, one of the poorest countries in the world, determined can build nuclear weapons and set aside the money and get the know-how and knowledge, it's just logical that Iran, sitting on wealth, oil, will do that. And then that changes the game in the Persian Gulf, the Middle East, and an arms race. We don't need that. We live in a dangerous, dangerous world. But it's not all bad, We're all here. We're free, and we want to stay that way. But I've been here a while. This is my 31st year in the Senate, my 6th term. And I think that we need to bring the market forces back everywhere we can, the law of supply and demand, because it works. I believe that. It's good to talk with you today. I bought cars from up here and in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and in Birmingham and so forth. My wife buys one there. I buy one there because I'm too old to drive it by myself. So keep it going. What you do is important. Talking about jobs, Mercedes came to Tuscaloosa County, Alabama. Wow. They announced the other day they're getting ready to spend nearly $1 billion on electric cars, just meeting this stuff. We appreciate all those jobs in my home county. About 4,000 from Mercedes and about 8,000 from suppliers. And they build cars and you guys sell them, don't you? Thank you very much for letting me be with you. I'll be glad to respond to a couple of questions if you have any. Enjoy your meal. You already have, I think. Yeah.